Welcome back. Now that we know what a GMAP is, this video will cover how to fill your GMAP. To start us off, let's take a look at what are the steps involved in filling your GMAP. So the first step is really to fill in the demographics and motivation of the user. This is actually part 1 and 2. This would probably be the most easy part to fill because they are just facts about your interviewee. What was his or her name, age, role. So in certain cases, they maybe have a certain role, like for example, a student or a team member. But if there is no role, it is fine to exclude that. Likes and dislikes would be anything, they mentioned they enjoy playing tennis, they like being on time, they dislike people who are late, and so on. So those are the likes and dislikes. Coming to part 2, though, that's the goals and motivation. So these goals and motivations pertain not just to the problem statement, but what is important to the user. So for example, one motivation or my motivation could be providing for my 2 daughters and giving them a good education, giving them a happy childhood. That could be my motivation. So demographics and goals help us to understand the user's preference. This is important because you are designing a solution for that user. And this would give us some inspiration as our ideas when we move to the next phase of the process. Step 2. Identify an interesting quote. So this section, if you remember part 3, this section are quotes pertaining to the problem statement. So they should be related to what you are investigating about. Anytime you find something interesting related to the problem statement that the interviewee state, that is where you should insert that quote here. And following that would be the 5 whys relating to that quote. So for example, if the quote was, I dislike people being late, then in this section of the 5 whys, that is where you would be asking your interviewee why does he dislike people being late, and the responses would be captured in these 5 whys. So in the previous lessons, we talked about using the 5 whys to do the interview. So this is where it comes in handy. So if you had asked in depth or dug deep enough in your interview, you should not have too much of an issue filling these whys. So let's move on to step 4. So things are getting a bit spicy and it's getting a bit more challenging. So based on what you have heard from the interviewee regarding that particular quote, what was something that was unexpected that you found out? What was something that was interesting that you found out that you didn't know before doing this interview? So these insights are particularly important because they would be what sets the solution that you come up with apart from all the other solutions that you could actually think of without doing the interview. So in step 4, that is where we are looking for some needs about the interviewee. So when I talk about needs, I'm actually referring to whether the interviewee lacks or would like to have something in order to improve their experience. In general, the need comes in the format that you see here. I need something, but something is stopping me. So for example, I need time to exercise, but I am busy most of the week. We will go through an example in the next couple of slides on how to actually fill up the insight as well as the needs. So let's take a look. So previously we said that the 5 whys is important when we are doing an interview. So let's take a look at a sample interview that was done with regards to a news app. So we see that the interviewer is first asking how the interviewee reads their news. Participant is saying, I have BBC and Sky News app on my phone. So that is where the first why comes in. Why those apps in particular? participant says that they are usually the quickest to break news stories. Why is breaking news important? I like to feel up to speed with the world. Why do you think it's important to be up to speed? And finally, I don't like being the last in my friendship group to hear about things. So if this was the section of the interview which we would like to use for our GMAP, let's take a look at how we could fill it out. So the quote would be, I have BBC and Sky News app on my phone. They are usually the quickest to break news stories. I feel like I'm up to speed with the world. And finally, I don't like being the last in my friendship group to hear about things. So the insight in this case was that it's not just about what news app I use, but my concern is being last in my friendship group to hear about things. And if the insight is that I'm afraid of being embarrassed, then what I need, or what this interviewee needs, is that he needs to be well informed so that he will not be embarrassed in front of his friends. So I hope this is a good example. One more example that we will run through. So let's take a look at the next slide. So I like to do activities with my friends. Why? They are getting older, would like to spend quality time. Why? I want to coach them and develop them. So similarly, we put in the need or the interesting quote, the why statements, and finally from there we can actually identify the insight that this lady wants to be an involved mother in her child's development. So moving on to the need. If the insight was wanting to be an involved mother, the need could be the need to be able to do meaningful activities with the kids, but she does not have enough time with them. There are other formats to craft your need statement aside from I need something but something else. We will actually discuss about them in the tutorial. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.